Welcome to Food for Thought. My name is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau from Compassionate Cooks. I founded Compassionate Cooks to empower people to make informed food choices and to debunk myths about vegetarianism and animal rights. You can learn more about who we are and what we do by visiting our website, compassionatecooks.com. Because we have been taught to be a culture obsessed with single nutrients, I'm asked questions on a regular basis about protein, calcium, B12, other single nutrients. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to eat as many whole plant foods as possible and not worry about counting micrograms of single nutrients. Eating a whole foods plant-based diet gives you the best shot at consuming and absorbing all the nutrients that give us optimum health. And just to clarify, when I say whole foods, I'm referring to foods as close to their natural state as possible. So for instance, whole wheat is a whole food, but white rice and white bread are not because the wheat and the fiber have been removed. So we're taught by the industries, basically, who have the most to gain from the lessons we learn, that the nutrients we need most are most readily available in animal flesh and animal secretions, right? The milk and meat and eggs of animals. The meat, dairy, and egg industries have done such a good job at promoting and marketing this concept that it's rarely questioned by the media or by health professionals and certainly the public. I'll show you how effective they've been with this little exercise. Now, you can answer these questions out loud or in your head. What's the first thing you think of when someone says calcium? Calcium, milk, right? You're probably thinking about cow's milk in particular. If I asked you, where should we get our protein? What would you say? Meat. Oh, very interesting. What if I said, what's the best source of omega-3 fatty acids? Would you say fish? Very good. Now, it's not a coincidence that you all said the same thing at the same time. It was quite remarkable. So let's start with calcium. You can find a more extensive discussion about calcium by visiting compassionatecooks.com/audio. But let's talk about it from this perspective. What's calcium? Where does it come from? Calcium is a mineral, right? It comes from the ground. That's where it's found. And why do cows have a lot of calcium in their milk? Because they eat plants, they eat grass. So grass, like all green leafy plants, all green leafy vegetables, contains high amounts of calcium. Now these days, 3 out of 4 cows are not eating grass. They're not let out to graze, but rather they're confined on dry lots, and they're not getting calcium. So if the cows aren't getting the calcium, what's the industry doing to make sure that this is a calcium-rich food that they tout it to be? Well, their feed is supplemented with calcium. Yeah, supplemented with calcium. So let's think about this purely from a resource perspective. We're impregnating cows who gestate for 9 months. They're pregnant for 9 months, just like a human. We supplement her feed with calcium. We confine her. We have machines milk her 3 times a day. We take her baby from her when it gives birth, and he winds up either veal or he goes immediately to slaughter, and the female follows her mother's path. So that offspring is born. We take that calf from the cow. We impregnate the cow again and milking her almost the entire time she's pregnant, and we start the process all over again. This is also humans can get calcium. It seems like quite an extensive and expensive process just to get this readily available nutrient into humans. So what if we just ate the grass? Well, essentially, what if we just ate the greens and all the green leafy vegetables that we love already, kale and collard greens and chard and spinach and all these other wonderful foods? What if we just did that and skipped the middleman, or the middle cow in this case? And what if we just ate fortified foods or drank fortified drinks like orange juice and other non-dairy milks, soy milk and rice milk? Many non-dairy milks these days are fortified with calcium and vitamin D, and of course there's also other great nutrients in those products. So what if we did that? And for that matter, couldn't we just take a calcium supplement like the cow is given? And keep in mind also that the calcium in cow's milk isn't that well absorbed anyway. So kids are drinking more cow's milk than ever and actually not getting the calcium they need. It seems to me like cutting out the middle man, the middle cow, would save a lot of unnecessary energy, a lot of unnecessary cost, a lot of unnecessary suffering and waste. I wonder why we don't just do that. I just don't get it. Could it have anything to do with the dairy industry and the billions of dollars they make off of these products? I don't think so, because I think they just really care about us getting our calcium. The other thing I just want to say about cutting out the middle man is that keep in mind that when nature is allowed to take its course, the offspring of any mammal drinks her mother's milk only to a certain age, depending on the mammal, right? Even when she's weaned, she goes directly to the source, to the ground, to the grass, to the vegetables to get her nutrients. So why should humans drink the milk of another species when even the offspring of that species doesn't drink her milk, her mother's milk, into adulthood? It just doesn't make any sense. The other single nutrient that people obsess over, literally obsess over, is protein. People are obsessed with this nutrient, and it's no wonder because they've been told for years that animal protein is superior to anything else. They've been told that they have to combine foods to get the proper amount of protein, that vegetable protein is incomplete, that animal protein makes you strong, that we'll die without animal protein, that we'll look sickly without animal protein, that our faces will fall off. Okay, I don't think I've heard that last one, that our faces will fall off, but I would not be surprised if somewhere someone has warned us of that. Okay, so just the truth about protein is that all proteins are made up of amino acids, and these amino acids are found in all foods. Some foods just have higher amounts of protein, of certain amino acids than others, but bagels, oatmeal, even carrots have protein. And again, there's a more extensive discussion about protein, again, at compassionatecooks.com/audio. And when you think of the largest and strongest animals on the planet, who do you think of? Gorillas and giraffes and elephants and bulls, the largest, strongest animals, they're all vegetarian and they all get their protein from plants. And even at the time in our lives, in a human life, when we're growing the fastest, when we're doubling in size, is when we're breastfeeding and infants, when we are just babies. And at that time in our lives, we require only 5% of our calories from protein. So just to give you just a little information here, relative to total calorie intake, only 5 to 6% of dietary protein is required to replace the protein regularly excreted by the body. Now, about 9 to 10% protein is what the recommended daily allowance has been for the past 50 years, just to ensure that most people at least get their 5 to 6% requirement. And again, you can get more information about that. But despite what most people think, we need a lot less protein than we think we do. Another nutrient that appears in nightly newscasts these days is omega-3 fatty acids. So now fish oil supplements are flying off the shelves and people are eating more fish than ever. And apart from the damage this is doing to the oceans, to marine life, and the unnecessary death of millions of sea animals, fish is not health food. It's loaded with fat, loaded with cholesterol, loaded with mercury contamination. And in terms of omega-3s, yes, they have high amounts of omega-3s, but back to our discussion about calcium, think about what I said about that. Why do fish have high amounts of omega-3s in their flesh? Because they're eating phytoplankton, they're eating algae, they're eating the plant foods that contain these fats. However, these days fish are also being factory farmed, just like land animals, so they're suffering from confinement also, and they're pumping up the tanks with antibiotics and other crap, and guess what? They're not giving these animals phytoplankton to munch on. So people are eating more fish than ever, but they're not getting their omega-3s. So we can cut out the middleman again and go right to the source. Now, flax seeds are the most concentrated source of omega-3 fatty acids, and they don't contain mercury. They're healthful, they're beautiful little seeds, and they're easy to digest, and no one has to die so that we can be healthy. And in fact, billions of animals are dying, and we're just getting more unhealthy. So just a quick note about flax seeds. When you buy flax seeds, buy them whole in the grocery store. You'll find them in the bulk section of any natural food stores, and use a coffee grinder to grind them up. Once they're ground up, you just stick them in a Tupperware container and put them in the freezer or the refrigerator. You don't have to refrigerate them until they're ground, okay? And add about 2 teaspoons a day to your smoothie, your oatmeal, cereal, salad, soup. It's a wonderful way to get your omega-3 fatty acids. Walnuts and hemp seeds are also very high in omega omega-3 fatty acids. And you can also use flax oil, but you can't cook with it because it destroys the properties. So you would use it to make salad dressings. But, I don't eat salads every day. So it's just, to me, easier to use the flax seeds. Finally, just a quick mention about B12. Vitamin B12 is a vitamin that comes up a lot when talking about vegan eating and plant-based eating. And it's important to mention when we're talking about cutting out the middleman. So B12 is found primarily in meat and eggs, right? Can you tell me why? Yeah, B12 doesn't just naturally occur in large amounts in the flesh of live animals. So why is it so prevalent in meat and eggs? It's because B12 grows on bacteria, okay? And why is there a lot of bacteria on meat? You're not going to like the answer, but think about it. Bacteria is attracted to rotting flesh, basically. And I'm sorry if that word offends you, but that's what meat is. It's the flesh of dead animals. They're corpses, and bacteria loves corpses. We used to consume some B12 from the ground when we ate our vegetables and ate some soil too, but now we scrub our vegetables so much because we're justifiably concerned about pesticides and toxins. So we don't really consume the B12 and other nutrients from the soil, and we're also depleting the soil of our nutrients as well. So the best way to ensure that we get B12, and it is important for everybody, is to just take it as a supplement. It's found in most multivitamins. And keep in mind, instead of creating this dichotomy about vegans needing this and non-vegetarians needing this, keep in mind that B12 deficiency is found in vegetarians as well as non-vegetarians. So everyone needs to make sure they're getting all of their nutrients, including B12. So if we cut out the middleman when it comes to eating healthfully, we're using much fewer resources. We're eliminating the cruel and barbaric treatment of animals. And we're ensuring that we're getting the nutrients we need without added toxins. I also encourage people to think of whole food and not obsess over single nutrients. Eat your vegetables, eat your fruit, eat your grains, eat your beans, eat your nuts, eat your seeds, your herbs and spices, and you'll thrive and enjoy. You'll enjoy life. You'll enjoy food. You'll enjoy eating. And again, visit compassionatecooks.com for more information. Thank you for listening.